There's a compliment we busy adults have learned to give and receive like a badge of honor. It's the idea of being a low-maintenance friend. You know the drill. It's that line we say with a certain pride. We can go months, even years, without talking, and when we finally get together, it's like no time has passed at all. We treat this ability to shelve a friendship, put it in hibernation mode, as a sign of its strength. As if the connection is so rock solid that it doesn't need watering, sunlight, or any real care. It just exists. It's the ideal friendship for a world that drains us dry, leaving us with no time for anything else. But what if this idea, as comforting as it seems, is one of the most dangerous myths for our emotional well-being? What if what we call low maintenance is actually just a polite way of describing a slow and steady drift apart? What if that feeling that nothing's changed is just an illusion? A nostalgia that masks the fact that we don't really know the person in front of us anymore? And what if friendship, like any living thing, can't survive on autopilot? This low-maintenance friendship idea is seductive because it offers a quick fix for one of our biggest fears: being left behind. Adulting hits hard, responsibilities pile up, and we cling to this notion like a life raft, believing our most important connections are safe, sound, and time-proof. It's the reunion, full of nostalgia and inside jokes, but with this weird, empty space when it comes to the present. We talk about the big milestones, a new job, a wedding, a baby. But the nitty-gritty details, the small wins, the secret anxieties, the new perspectives that have shaped who we are today, those stay off the table. The conversation skates on the surface of old affection, afraid to dive into the unknown waters of the present. We become curators of a friendship museum. We preserve the memories, the inside jokes, the image of the person we once were. But the real person, the one who exists now, with new scars and new passions, they're left out in the cold. And so, surrounded by low-maintenance friends, we end up feeling profoundly alone. Why do we fall into this trap? What psychological mechanism makes us prefer the safety of a dormant friendship to the risk of a living connection? Our preference for the safety of a dormant friendship over the risk of a living connection is rooted in one of the most powerful biases in the human mind. It's a principle from behavioral economics that applies to pretty much all our decisions, from money to relationships. It's called loss aversion. The concept, popularized by psychologists like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, is surprisingly simple. To our minds, the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the joy of gaining something of equivalent value. We are hardwired to avoid losses at all costs. And how does this apply to friendships? An active friendship, one that requires effort, time, and vulnerability, carries an inherent risk of loss. There might be a disagreement. We might find we've changed so much that we're no longer compatible. We might get rejected. Keeping a friendship alive is an investment with an uncertain return. On the other hand, the low-maintenance friendship seems to have no risk at all. By putting it on the shelf, we avoid the potential for conflict, the pain of rejection, the effort of investing. We avoid the possibility of actively losing it. We prefer the certainty of having a friend on paper to the uncertainty of having a friend in practice. I feel this in my own life. I have a childhood friend who was like a brother to me. We shared everything. But adult life pulled us into different cities and different worlds. For years, we upheld the low-maintenance myth. A birthday message here, a like on a photo there. I told myself our friendship was strong enough to not need more. But the truth I was avoiding, was that I was scared. Scared to call and find out we had nothing in common anymore. Scared that the conversation would be awkward and forced. scared to confirm that the friendship I held in my memory no longer existed in reality. My aversion to that potential loss was so great that I preferred the loneliness of not having his friendship in my daily life to the pain of maybe losing it forever. If our loss aversion makes us prefer the certainty of a dormant friendship, then we're looking at the equation the wrong way. We fear the active and sudden loss of a conflict, but we don't see the passive and guaranteed loss of distance. The low-maintenance myth doesn't prevent loss. It just makes it slower, quieter, disguised as maturity. It's like letting a plant die of thirst for fear of overwatering it. What if true courage isn't having friendships that survive neglect, but having the courage to be the first one to water? What if the antidote to loss aversion isn't recklessness, but intention? The shift in perspective is this: the small risk of an awkward conversation, an uncomfortable silence, or even finding out you don't have much in common anymore, is the price of admission for the possibility of an immense reward, reviving a real connection, turning a memory into a living relationship. So, here's the permission slip you might need to hear. You have permission to be the one who sends the first text. You have permission to be the one who says, "I miss you," for no particular reason. You have permission to be vulnerable enough to admit that low maintenance isn't enough. That's not a sign of neediness. It's a sign of courage. It's proof that you value the friendship enough to take a small risk for it. Maybe maintaining a friendship isn't a burden, but a privilege. It's the work of tending a garden. And a well-tended garden, even a small one, brings so much more joy than a vast field left to weeds. Learning to tend the garden of our friendships is an art that's practiced with small gestures of intention. And if you feel you need a deeper guide on how to cultivate and maintain meaningful connections in adulthood, I have a book recommendation that explores exactly that. The book is called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. Although the main focus is on how to create memorable gatherings, the philosophy behind the book is a masterclass on the importance of intention in our relationships. Parker teaches us that any gathering, from a coffee date to a huge party, is an opportunity to create a space where genuine connection can blossom. She gives us the tools to be more conscious hosts of our own relationships. It's a read that changes how we see every interaction and perfectly complements our conversation today, transforming the desire to reconnect into a clear and meaningful plan of action. Our conversation today is an invitation to be more intentional gardeners of our own connections. And like any good garden, it flourishes when it's shared. So, I'd love to hear your perspective in the comments. The question I leave for our community is, what's the low-maintenance friendship in your life that you'd like to water this week? And what's one small gesture, one little message you can send to get started? Reading your stories and the support you give each other is what makes this space so special. If you value these conversations and want them to continue, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to go a step further and directly support the production of more videos like this, think about becoming a member. And, of course, our final reminder: this is an exploration of the nature of our relationships. If the feeling of loneliness is persistent and is affecting your mental health, please consider seeking help from a qualified professional. Taking care of your connections, including the connection with yourself, is an act of self-care. Thank you for your company. May we have the courage to trade the convenience of a dusty friendship on a shelf for the imperfect beauty of a flower that needs our care to live.